From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your 4 p.m. update, the briefing for Central North Carolina regarding the basically the winter weather event that's moving across Central North Carolina overnight, late tonight through the day tomorrow. Real quickly, what has changed? We now have issued winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for portions of Central North Carolina. So what you see on the map there, the pink are the winter storm warnings. The blue or purple shade there, that's the winter weather advisory. And that's what we have got right now for the warning and advisory area. Obviously, we're here 24/7, 365. If you're wondering, well, what about my county, being in or out, or, we're certainly going to be, reevaluating the need for these advisories and warnings as we head through the event. So anyway, that's been the biggest change. Things are coming, in confidence is increasing in terms of the overall event, but certainly still fairly low confidence in the details. So, snow, accumulating snow, isolated power outages, hazardous travel now looks fairly likely, particularly across the warning area and probably even the advisory area, tonight and into Friday. And there's a little typo here, so I need to fix that here tonight. We'll indicate through Friday that should be into Friday night. And then, of course, the one thing we kind of alluded to at 11 o'clock was the black ice concern. Much of Central North Carolina now will have a risk for seeing some black ice Saturday morning, at least until temperatures rise above freezing, which will be at 10 o'clock, roughly 10 o'clock Saturday morning. All right. So I sort of shared these already when I emailed this out at 1 p.m. So you kind of, if you've seen the slides I emailed at 1 p.m., you've kind of got a sneak peek here. But basically, the precipitation is expected to lift north across Central North Carolina in the pre-dawn hours Friday. Now, fairly confident that the triad in locations west of Interstate 74, 74 is this highway that runs from basically Greensboro down into Rockingham, Richmond County, and essentially, so once you go west of there, and particularly from Albemarle northward, is where we think that the snow will really kind of get underway. East of there, it's going to take a little while to cool the atmosphere down. So that's why you see the green there on the eastern side of that band. More than likely, we'll start to see some light accumulations begin in the pre-dawn hours in the areas you see there that are blue. But then as we head through the morning hours, as that precipitation continues to fall, pretty good indication that it'll cool the atmosphere, perhaps even enough that maybe we might even see some snow ultimately mixing in shortly after sunrise through maybe the mid-morning hours, some mixed precipitation. And the area that I have hatched, that's where there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding how long. In that hatched area, I do expect some mixture of snow and rain, but how long it remains rain or how long it remains snow, and if there are any accumulations with that earlier in the morning band is still fairly, we're still not quite locked in yet with how that may ultimately evolve, because it's so borderline. Okay, and that hatched area is a borderline area in terms of, north of 85, no problem. It's cold enough, it'll be snow. Okay, so you see the blue there, that blue area that's, like I said, north of 85. That's a pretty much slam dunk. You're going to have snow there once that gets going tomorrow morning. Okay, so light accumulations may occur in that area north of 85. I do expect some accumulation there through the morning hours tomorrow morning. And then what's kind of interesting is how we get into what we call a dry slot, and there's the initial band that lifts north, ahead of the low, and then as the low is transitioning to the east, oftentimes we get this area of drying in the middle layers of the atmosphere, and that's what you see there depicted sort of in that 12 noon into the early afternoon on the left side of this slide. When that occurs, the to avoid getting too technical, the atmosphere loses its ability to, when it dries out like that, to produce ice crystals. And even if it's cold enough, it may not be cold enough, high enough in the atmosphere to produce, snow crystals. So basically, that's when we think that we'll probably, south of 85, switch back to rain. And in fact, but at the same time, it should be fairly light. I don't expect a whole lot of rain with this during the early afternoon on Friday, where it is raining. Now, once you get north of 85, the drying may not extend that far north, so it's possible that the snow could keep falling up near the Virginia border. So, which means, additional accumulations for those border counties. But then finally, once the low passes by to the east, and we get into the sort of the backside, if you will, where that upper level, mid-level moisture begins to fill back in, then we're going to see basically a transition from rain to snow in an west to east fashion as the late afternoon progresses. So as the text there says, as the surface low begins to move east, colder air will move in from the west, changing the rain to snow across the central Piedmont. Obviously, that's where it's not already snowing at that time. So light accumulations are possible during that time. And in the hatched area, I called out the hatched area because there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding the precise timing of that changeover to snow. So it could be as early as 3:30, or it could be as late as 6:30. There's like a 3-hour window where I'm not exactly sure, along the US 1 corridor and then a triangle region, when exactly that changeover will occur. But suffice it to say, it's going to be in the late afternoon. All right. And then finally, basically, the changeover from rain to snow will continue to progress eastward. And you'll notice some pink shading there. You can't rule out some light freezing rain, particularly across the north and northeast Piedmont, and maybe the northern coastal plain. But any ice accumulations would be above the surface, mostly at the treetop level. So that's the thinking there. And then again, as the evening wears on, it pretty much switches to snow just about everywhere. So light snow will continue across the eastern Piedmont and eventually the coastal plain region. Light snow accumulations are possible where the snow falls. And while accumulations in most of the snow area shown above will be well under 1 inch, there could be a few isolated pockets of 1 to 2 inch snow amounts. And that's what we're going to be focusing on this evening and overnight tonight is, are there going to be enough of those pockets of 1 to 2 inches of snow in the eastern Piedmont and coastal plain that would warrant a winter weather advisory? So it's possible that we may need to extend that winter weather advisory a little bit further eastward. So definitely stay tuned. Like I said at the onset of this briefing, if you're not in advisory now, it doesn't mean you're not going to be in an advisory by the time this is all said and done. So anyway, it's just we're trying to gauge to what extent those pockets of 1 to 2 inch snow amounts may occur, but somewhere in that area, there could be a few bursts of heavier snow. And then basically it all winds down overnight into Saturday morning. Okay, so, obviously some roads are going to be pretty tricky, both due to snow-covered roads or black ice where the heavier snow and any melting occurred. So yeah, I do expect Friday night to be pretty tricky travel across much of central North Carolina, quite frankly. All right, so again, that's kind of how we see it evolving. So if you see things lightening up, let me back up here. If you see things lightening up, like right here is depicted at 12 p.m. into early afternoon, that is totally expected, and that's actually what's helping to change things back to rain, at least across the central Piedmont and central areas, a triangle included, but that is expected to fill back in, and perhaps with the eastern portions of central North Carolina seeing the bulk of the accumulations in the evening, okay, as the evening band moves through. Okay, so to kind of let me just show the snowfall amount. So this is our updated official snowfall forecast. And we've trended these amounts up. We've got 2 to 3 inch swath there for the warned counties: Forsyth, Guilford, Davidson, and Randolph. And then we've got basically lighter amounts as you go south and east, with the expectation that along the I-95 corridor, less than 1 inch. Now, again, our challenge is what's going to happen with that late day Friday evening band. Is that going to produce more snow further east, maybe across the central and northern I-95 corridor? So these amounts may in fact need to be, my gut's sort of telling me that these amounts may need to be altered upward. Unfortunately, our afternoon runs of the probabilistic snow and the high-end amounts haven't finished running yet, so I wasn't able to include those. But my gut tells me when those are finished running, if you have a chance to look on our webpage, on our winter weather page, take a look at the high-end amount. That might be, we might have to trend somewhere in that direction. Not all the way to the high-end amount, but at least maybe somewhere in between. In fact, let me see if I could show that real quick here. So if you're familiar with our webpage at weather.gov/Raleigh, and if you scroll down here to the winter weather tile right here, winter weather, click on that. And this shows our probabilistic snow. Okay, and see where it says current hazard? That's the watch warnings and advisories that are in effect. Click this next tab over where it says probabilistic snow forecast. And this gives you the range of possibilities. Now, these are, our systems are updating these maps right now as we speak, so they're a little bit delayed. But take a look at the high end amount when that updates in another hour or so. This process is largely automated. That's why I say it's in the process of updating, and I don't have any control to make it happen faster. But take a look at that, and the reality might be somewhere in between. The expected in the high end amount is kind of maybe what my gut's telling me, but we'll see. So the advisory might need to be expanded. We'll see about that. But this is our official forecast as it stands right now. All right, and let's see, what else do we have here? A summary. Wintry mix of precipitation tonight and Friday. Confidence is high, still kind of low. We just, it will always be low on mixed precip events. Confidence, that is. That's just North Carolina winter weather. It's always tricky to nail down. So there's the winter storm warnings. There's the winter weather advisories. And 1 to 2 inches is the expectation for the advisory area. Closer to 3 inches in the warned area. Outside of the advisory and warning areas, late day snow amounts right now will be less than 1 inch, but we may need to tweak that. We'll see as we get a little closer. Snow will move into the western Piedmont and the Triad before daybreak Friday, and snow may then continue off and on most of the day Friday along and north of the I-85 corridor. Although south of the 85 corridor into the early afternoon, things may lighten and in fact just quit altogether precipitating. And then that next batch of snow moves in during the evening, and where the snow does accumulate, keep in mind that there could be a few snap trees, subsequent power outages. That snow is going to be pretty wet and heavy. And then, of course, as just a reminder, black ice will be expected Saturday morning, mainly where slushy accumulations have occurred. Temperature is expected to rise above freezing by 10 a.m. Saturday.